I'm going to stand over here because some of these I have to remember because I wrote the presentation this afternoon, so forgive me slightly. And thank you for having me, and thank you for inviting me, Hannah. I saw Hannah speak recently, and she is an amazing speaker if you get a chance to see.
I'm speaking on the 24th of May at Outreach at a venue called Launch 22, so you should all sign up to that.
She's amazing self-promises. Okay, so the topic I'm going to talk about, the future of retail is local and personal. Okay? And there's a reason for that, the business that I'm in and where we've come from in our journey, I'm going to talk you through briefly, but I think it lends us to have a bit of credibility to talk about this space. But as I was writing, of course, what happened was I started redesigning what I was going to talk about. And actually what I think this presentation about is winning the last retail yard. Or you could call it winning the last digital retail yard. And to give you a kind of minute into who the hell I am, why the hell I'm standing here. So I have spent 20 plus years working in holding companies. So I spent almost my entire life working in the exact opposite to the kind of business I now work in. So I worked for WPP, I worked for Aegis, I worked for Publicis, and throughout that entire period I thought that was the star. I thought the biggest clients was the game, because you're taught to. Everything inside holding companies is about scale. So you aim for the biggest, shiniest stars, and that's what success is measured by. It's quite interesting to then be in a different space and understand the differences to that world and the world that I think many of us now live in. There's some really interesting things I'll try and bring out. And on that journey, I kind of had an epiphany. I did global jobs, I did UK jobs, I worked abroad, and that epiphany came when I realised that even after 20 years, even after running Mediacom, which at the time and still is the biggest agency in the UK, I actually had no ability to make a difference to my business or my client's business. And the reason for that was two things. Mediacom is part of WPP and it's 140,000 or so people. So no matter what I did, I was the tiniest piece in the machinery. And even if I thought I was doing something amazing inside my business, actually inside the overall machinery, it was obsolete. And at a certain point that becomes quite disenfranchising. Secondly, with enormous clients like P&G or Unilever or Coca-Cola or whoever, it's really hard to move the needle on those businesses as well. Because no matter what you do, no matter how brilliant you are basically hardly moving the needle on a global basis. And that's quite an interesting kind of inflection point after a million years of scrabbling and climbing and killing and trying to achieve. And at this point, to think about something different. So what I did was completely change tack and go and work in North America for a full service, there aren't many of those left in the world, media, creative and PR business that was independently owned. And that started to really help me understand that there was a different way. And I think it's really, really interesting because it then led me to meet a guy that owns the business I now work for. So privately owned business called DAC Group. And that journey kind of takes me to stand here in front of you and take the DAC kind of lens on the world, filtered with my 25-year journey through global, scaled, kind of corporately structured businesses. And I hope I can bring an interesting perspective on the way those two things collide. Who are the DAC Group? You'll never have heard of them. Because until a year ago, we didn't exist in Europe, didn't exist in the UK. So the DAC Group was born 43 years ago. That's a pretty amazing thing, a marketing services business that's 43 years old, and actually still describes itself as a 43-year-old startup, because anyone who survives 43 years has to have behaved like a startup, otherwise you're dead. So we started 43 years ago in the most unsexy part of anything to do with marketing, Yellow Pages. So we were a Yellow Pages print agency in Toronto. That is an inauspicious start, I've got to tell you. Very few businesses have grown out of Toronto. Actually, Blackberry was the one and then it killed itself. Apart from that, nothing has come out of Toronto, apart from maybe DAC Group. So a year ago, after a long journey building across North America, transforming to digital, because of course our Yellow Pages clients started to move online and started to ask us to do digital things, and eventually become a full-service digital agency because those clients are asking us to do stuff. And then the guy that owns it asked me to come home from North America and launch DAC Group in the UK. So that's why you've never heard of us, because we've been here for less than a year. But we are a distinctly credible and incredible journey 43-year-old business. And we were always in the hyperlocal space, because Yellow Pages was the original hyperlocal space. Yes, there was radio, but actually even local radio is talking to a whole town, a whole area. There were very few things that were talking to or representing individual businesses. So what we did was make sure that every single shop had its ad displayed. And that's quite an interesting thing when you think about it, because if we got one thing wrong, one telephone number, one address, digit wrong, we ruined the bloke's business for a year, because you only bought Yellow Pages once a year. So granularity and extreme attention to detail and looking through the eyes of individual shop owners was something that was born into our DNA in the very unsexy world of Yellow Pages. And of course, the world was, operated, navigated through physical atlases, not through digital maps. But those two things together, how you found those businesses and how those businesses sold themselves, were what we spent our time doing, but in the very, very traditional world. And of course, like some people in this room who've been working long enough, the technology revolution hit our business in a dramatic way. And partly kicking and screaming, we moved into the digital world. And actually, what I think is a pretty staggering transformation, 7 years ago, 90% of our client fees were still print, and 10% were digital. So from 96 to about late 2000s, our transformation had been 10% digital. And then in the last 7 years, we've doubled in size and are now 90% digital. So that transformation in itself, all the cultural, all the strategic, all the kind of skill set requirements, has been one enormous undertaking. And I'm just riding on the back of the coattails now of all the people that have done the hard work, so that's fine. But to a business like ours, with that extremely granular local perspective, even on the digital world, this is the game. This was the game that changed everything we do. And for many of us that was true. But Google really did take us from A to Z overnight. And it did that when, it's so long ago that the first kind of 10-pack local search ads came out that you can't even find a decent screen grab on Google of what it used to deliver. But Google in about 2009 basically took the Yellow Pages phone directory and put it online when it started delivering local ads. And it delivered 10 at a time. And the guy who owns our business basically ran out of his office, apocryphally told now by other people in the business, and said that this is the thing that changes everything we do. Yellow Pages physical becomes Yellow Pages digital. And in the 5 or 6 years since then, what has become called local SEO has changed dramatically. So it now becomes a 3-pack. 10 kind of feels like you had a bit of a chance with 10. You've got 3 chances now, and that's brutal. So if you are a brand big or small, you've got 3 chances to win. And Google isn't even holding off. Google's going even deeper. So they start to display in North America, they're testing the price of what they call gas, petrol, at the location of a petrol pump near you. So they start to deliver incredible information. I mean, rich. I mean, as a consumer, that's amazing. That's what you want. You want to know where the gas is and what the price is. Who's cheapest? There you go. Straight away. This guy's got no chance. He's miles more expensive than that when Google told you in whatever 0.0001 of a second. And they're playing with every service. So they're playing with basically plumbers.com, playing with locksmiths.com. So Google wants to become the aggregator for everything we used to use the Yellow Pages, White Pages for. And when Google really, really wants to do something, it kind of tends to win. And of course, being Google, they're now going to start making you pay for it. Now that 20% of all searches are local searches, have something like near me in or a location in, 1 in 5 searches has that kind of mechanic. Google flips the switch and turns it to paid. So now inside, you've got your paid ads, you've got your organic, and now inside, in between those, you have your local organic and your local organic, or your local SEO paid, or local paid. So all of a sudden, you've got 4 tiers of game that you're playing. This is all going on in North America at the moment. Not here yet. And this is, I only saw this week. I think this might be Google's next play into the social space. So this is, as you can read, Local Guides. Local Guides is a community of explorers sharing their discoveries on Google Maps. So tell us about your hyper-local experience and share it. So I don't know if that's Google plus reinvented or Facebook competitor, but it's going to be some kind of sharing platform. One of the things we hear from clients is, yeah, I get that, it's all very neat, but isn't it all just about Google and plumbers, basically? It's for franchise businesses, service businesses, it's for people not like me, enterprise business, A, B, C. And fundamentally that's not true. Because it isn't just Google playing in the space now. So Facebook have pretty much stated publicly they want to become the Yellow Pages for business. Their business listings as a kind of base point for that. But they want to represent the local business community as much as they do the big businesses' ad dollars, because they know that's how the consumer's behaving. Amazon now delivers, I think Alexa is their voice search technology, and they use Yelp to power their local search capability inside that voice engine. Pinterest obviously has business pins now, etc., etc. Apple's rebuilding Apple Maps. So if all of the biggest, basically the most powerful businesses in the world that play in our world are driving into local and hyperlocal and doing so on an increasingly kind of deep and consistent basis, then it's a thing. It's a thing way beyond plumbers and just Google. As I already said. And when the consumer starts to adopt it, because when technology delivers amazing things and the consumer thinks it's a good idea, they do more of it. So something near me as a search term, that's just brilliant. It's completely relevant because we expect that now. You've got your location devices turned on. You expect the technology to understand where you are, and you're pissed off if it doesn't. And that's why now 20% of all search queries are local. And actually, brilliantly, starting to drive business for retailers, bigger business as well as smaller business. So, stat there for anyone that can't read at the back. Better here. 50% of all locations. So they expect all 57% of all locations need to be within 5 miles. 24% consider location proximity the most important search factor. So this is what consumers are saying back to the importance of local in their consumer journey, which makes it mainstream, which doesn't just make it about plumbers. And you'll all probably have seen a whole bunch of stuff about Hound and voice search, and anyone that hasn't tried Hound do, it's truly out of this world spectacular. But what truly brilliant voice recognition search technology does is it makes natural search queries and long tail search queries a thing. Because if you can ask extremely complicated questions that you would not be bothered to type into a search query kind of box, then you're creating an enormous amount of long tail search query, which will usually include location. So voice search, number one, I mean, actually even within the last 6 months, that kind of, the trending path of that adoption of voice search is extraordinary. But for me, the other interesting thing, so not only will it be a volume play, but it's about the way it changes the mechanics of search, local search, the way we use the internet. And my answer to any clients that talk about, isn't this just for plumber businesses, services businesses, franchise businesses, is no, because there's no one from McDonald's here, is there? Because, if we stop videoing, because if you're McDonald's, this is horseshit. Honestly, it's absolutely disgraceful that the McDonald's, if I look for McDonald's near me, I couldn't be more simple about what I want. The McDonald's shows me these 3 locations, or Google does, because that's how McDonald's is managing its local search. That's a disgrace. I would imagine there are 20 to 30 McDonald's closer to where I was, which is in the middle of those 3, obviously, than are displayed by McDonald's here. So How the hell is this not about enterprise businesses? And if you're Pizza Express, even if it's a generic search rather than a branded search, has anyone ever heard of any of those 3 pizza places? No. It's inconceivable that Pizza Express and/or name all the very big famous pizza restaurants in that area don't appear in the local search. And given our mobile behaviour, if you actually think about this the next time you're searching, you will not look at the organic ads because they're below the fold. So if you're searching with a local intent, you will only see the local search pattern. And if you're looking for something, and that brand, big or small, is not in the box of 3, then you're losing business. Why on earth would you do that to yourself? And then the whole hyperlocal space is about to change again in a really extraordinary way. Is that me bouncing? If any of you think you're getting some kind of seasickness, it's because the screen is bouncing. So Sky, who are pretty much the most amazing broadcaster in the world, they've gone hyperlocal. So they have now built a sales team to sell to local businesses. We'll make you an ad, a TV ad, and next to no money. Because if you think if you're a law firm in Newcastle, you've got 5 law firms, actually you're quite a scaled business. You just wouldn't want to advertise on TV nationally and or pay the money to make a kind of TV commercial because it costs too much money. But if you're a law firm and you can advertise just in Newcastle and make a TV ad to drive awareness, which you're probably doing tons of digital anyway, the digital will harvest the awareness that you build with TV, why wouldn't you? Well, Sky have done that with their AdSmart technology, which now allows you to target by postcode. And they've put local sales teams on the ground all over the country to walk into businesses who have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 dry cleaners, law firms, make ads for them, place them in their region. That's an absolute game changer to anything about local.
And that's on normal Sky Telly.
Yeah. Because there's no such thing as normal Sky Telly anymore, because it's all being kind of digitally delivered to you anyway. They've just never broken it out by. They always could, because they know who you are. They know all the TV programs you watch. They know all the internet that you watch if you're signed up to them as a kind of triple play. They can now start to target you based on your internet behaviour, heaven forbid, and show you ads on TV in Newcastle or in Sutton or in wherever. So it starts to bring a whole different, perspective on how you might take advantage of talking to people in their local area. And that's very physical retail focused, but I think it's the localization and personalization is equally relevant in the e-commerce, the last e-commerce yard. Because, excuse me, when you tell search engine X what you want, and you give it all the detail because you expect it to understand that, 20-inch Pirelli tyres in Hartford, guess where I live, you would expect whoever you click on to take you to something that answers that query. You've told them exactly what you want. The location, but also real detail around the product. Quick Fit, again, I have a Quick Fit here. What Quick Fit do something partly brilliant, which is put your registration in here, they'll tell you what tyres you need. But if you don't know, if it doesn't recognise all cars, and what it doesn't do, even if you put your registration in, it doesn't take you to your location. So it basically takes you back to the homepage. It doesn't take you to the Hartford branch with the Pirelli 20-inch kind of booking engine, which it has inside its website. It just hasn't presented it to you on the first landing page. Why the hell not? And actually, that's just one example. You'll all have lived your own particular examples, but as a brand experience, that's pretty shite. And it's the reason that Expedia ranked for, I think it might be 80 million pages. It's absolutely insane. So the brands that got this were the travel brands and have been building landing pages at scale, because they've got engineers in-house, they've known this for years, they've been building all these pages. So when you ask Expedia for a trip to New York on bank holiday, it takes you to something that is booking a trip to New York and gives you content, rich content about New York. So they figured this out a long time ago. It takes a lot of time, effort and or money to build landing pages by the 50 million, by the way. But it's a brilliant experience. It's local and personal. And then the two worlds of digital and physical start to collide, and we all, I guess probably everyone takes part in click and collect. But the interesting thing is I read something about Next. So Next, I think only like 5 years ago, had 5% click and collect, 95% e-commerce delivered. And now it's about 50-50. Because people actually do want to go into a physical store, so the digital physical starts to become a thing. So your location starts to become a thing. You expect businesses to tell you where click and collect is for the nearest Next or the nearest whatever. So intelligent use of location and personalization of the digital content or property by brands is part of the brand experience. And it's harder when the worlds collide. So what does that mean for us in the kind of digital marketing space? Because there are, you know, a hyperlocal, the local space, it's a big one. I'm looking at it particularly through a digital marketing lens. A lady called Lydia Gordon termed the phrase nowism, which I think is quite cool, because what to me it reflects is customers, consumers, we're all guilty or living this world. We expect things now. We expect it on a need it now basis. We behave on a need it now basis. And there's lots of businesses like Amazon delivering that. I'm in the test area for Amazon same day delivery. Amazon Prime. It's absolutely insane. You order something at 2 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon and it turns up that day. Anyway, so we're living in a world where we have to think about customers on the consumer journey through a need it now lens. From a business perspective, it means that you have to break down the silos inside your business, whether they're digital and physical, because if someone, the Amazon setup, 99% of businesses in the UK couldn't deliver that. Mainly because the infrastructure, the plumbing, isn't set up to do that. Because someone clicks buy on, probably on Next site, there's absolutely no kind of back end that's talking in the same, is connected to that front end. So for most businesses, breaking down silos is going to be one of those barriers that is going to take time. And it's our job as digital professionals to help our brands kind of navigate that. And everyone's seen McKinsey. I just picked a consumer journey because it doesn't matter, because that's irrelevant now. The funnel's irrelevant, McKinsey's journey is irrelevant. The point is, the consumer journey is more important and more complex. Because if you can really identify where you're going to win, how you're going to win, especially hyper-locally, you're going to drive business. So I love the consumer journey. I love the whole structure that it gives to thinking strategically about a client's business problems through marketing and through media. But identifying, in our particular case, the lens of where we can win for a client in a hyper-local environment is absolutely critical. But the consumer journey is more complicated than ever before. But the great news for us, this is a piece of Google research, so probably self-fulfilling prophecy. However, I love this. So, the blue is footfall, store footfall traffic, and the red line is a search for brand X plus store hours. And the correlation is absolutely extraordinary. So, the ROI is not that difficult to get to. So the world we play in, digitally, digital to physical, there are increasingly robust ways of correlating a return on investment, which actually is all we're here to do for our clients. And on the kind of content side, the great news is that, and this is a piece of research by Hubspot, companies with just 40 plus landing pages get 12 times more leads than those with 5 or less. So the paradigms are extraordinary. If you actually make the effort to personalize the content, your landing page, or content of any kind, you will get the returns. But again, it takes time, money, and effort. So how can we take advantage of those opportunities? Well, the first thing is to fix your local SEO. And local search is just the most public way that it manifests, actually. In America, this is what they talk about, the Maps channel. That's the behavior, that's the consumer behavior. People just go straight into Google or Apple Maps and type in a business name and address or area and expect it to be found. Try it here. It's Google's algorithm rewards engaging landing pages, no surprise, because it does exactly the same thing in traditional organic. And inside all the social and tech businesses, so you have to be plugged into, you have to play with Facebook, you have to play with Pinterest, you have to play with Amazon, you have to play with Foursquare. So you have to play with the whole digital ecosystem. And actually all of that is designed to help Google know that you're a serious local player. And of course the directories. So there's quite a lot of stuff to do to play well in this space. And there's some, you can do it by hand. There are some brilliant articles on Search Engine Man. 24 tips for local SEO success. Well, that's going to take till about June. It's just going to take forever. But you can do it manually. So if you're a business like McDonald's with, I'm guessing, 6,000 locations in the UK, and you've got to deliver that data to all of those platforms I just had up on screen, and do all of the kind of consistency of naming, opening hours, address, name, address, phone number. You've got to create good landing pages. You've got to create all the right links so that Google is convinced that you are a proper local player, and do it 6,000 times with 30, 40, 50 providers. You can do it by hand, but it's really, really hard. And I think most people who you ask to do it, if you're a client, will resign and walk out of the building. You can use technology. There's a whole bunch of different technology. So, unsurprisingly, my advice would be use technology. It will really, really help your clients. And it's actually remarkably inexpensive. Remarkably inexpensive. And on the landing pages side, again, in a perfect world, we'd have a landing page per keyword. We'd all have 50 million landing pages, but that's just not economically possible. Again, there are a bunch of businesses that can help you automate this. Think about it. You will help your business, your clients' businesses. And I know we all think we get granular with the long tail, our PPC campaigns, our paid search campaigns, but you're not granular enough. I can tell you that because in North America, we run campaigns with 9 million actively managed keywords. And it's not just the scale of North America, it's just the fact that we're built as a hyper-local business. Of course we use technology to help us, but to structure everything you do down to a hyper-local perspective, never mind all the normal kind of dimensions, creates a keyword demand that is enormous. But if you do it, you will win. And actually what I find is amazing is, in what other channel does everyone get to play on a pretty level playing field? Because Bosch washing machines in Croydon, I've told them what I want. The 3 local search results, Bosch, no surprise, they'll be paying a fortune for that. These 3 guys, again, you've never heard of. Absolutely insane. That a business with probably a marketing budget of 0, because it's the bloke who owns the shop who's doing it all, can actually beat all of the national players, and actually will drive traffic through that. So for me, this is a hugely it's just exciting that that is possible in this world where I used to think that the biggest was the way to do everything. Whereas actually the way you can make the most difference is to work on clients where you can move the needle. Which in our case comes from our heritage of living in deeply hyper-local, yellow pages, one store at a time, and building solutions as if we were trying to help one store at a time, scaled up into an enterprise level. And that's my story. Thank you.
So, we have loads of time for questions. Perk of being a volunteer is you get to ask the first question. So I'm going to go first because I'm really selfish, which means you all have time to think of one. You might get called on at random, so I would get thinking. Okay, so you had a picture. Right, we're going for this slide here, 37, to make you go back through. Sorry, you're going to use my rubbish.
That one?
That one, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so this bit here, is there a way you can change the ranking order and make sure that you rank higher? How's it based?
By doing all of that.
So if you've got
You
really
do
good at all
all
of
of
those,
that, you've got brilliant reviews. So if, number one, all your data, your business data, on an individual location basis is accurate and consistent, then Google knows what the answer is. Because basically when you say Bosch in Croydon, what Google does is it scrapes, I'm not sure they would say that, scrapes the digital ecosystem and looks for everything about Croydon. And if it has a different answer from, if there's a John Lewis in Croydon, 15 times over, then it doesn't know what the right answer is. If you've got the same name, address, John Lewis, Croydon High Street, blah, 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 all the same structure, it goes, I know that John Lewis is on the High Street in Croydon and it's a proper business. Because it doesn't know who John Lewis the brand is, it just knows what the information says. So by creating completely consistent naming, name, address, phone number, opening hours, long lat pin placement, all that kind of granular stuff, that helps Google find you.
Washing machine Dan didn't have directions.
So
you
that's
must
because
be missing-
it's the tallest midget. So everyone's so shit.
So
Excuse my
if
language.
the other two have directions,
They don't rank it. I don't. So 1, 2. It's just being in the search pack. So what you can't see is what its links are to. So there's number one, your visibility. Are you giving it good name, address, phone number, opening hours, that kind of information that you can see? What were the reviews like? So I don't know what the reviews are sitting behind because Google absolutely in all organic likes customer experience to be great. So if the reviews were bad for one of those businesses and better for the other business, then that's an important thing. If the customer experience on the landing page, what's your bounce rates, etc., everything you'd be normally, absolutely comfortable with, what are those like? Google takes that into account. And then how are you engaging with local content from that platform? So it's lots of the same stuff as you would do in any kind of organic campaign, except with a local lens. Google's looking at it with a local lens. So it's doing a collective of all of those things will help you win. And Google, of course, won't tell you exactly what weighting on each of those things is inside the algorithm.
cool. We're going to apply the selfish rule thing again and let another volunteer ask a question. I'm really sorry, but you should all volunteer, then you could go first too. Barry?
If you've got a company like Plumbers, they serve
Like who,
the whole-
sorry?
Plumbers?
Yep.
Big plumbing company,
Yep.
serve the whole of London. How would they perform Hyperlocal search for that? I mean, do they set up multiple landing pages of the different areas they're targeting? So they've got one location in Pimlico,
Yep.
but they serve the whole of London.
Yes. So in an ideal world, what you'll do is you'll have a landing page per location per service. Because of course they don't just deliver one service, they are a plumber, but inside that is a number of different things. So the combination of location and service is the real personalization.
And then what about duplicate content? Is there 20?
So Google's rule is about 20% or so. So as long as you're not replicating the entire page bar one word, then Google will let you play that game.
Right.
So you've got to change enough of the content, and that's where technology helps you. So a bunch of the technology businesses will do that for you. The algorithm is effectively changing enough of the content in a meaningful way that it's different, but it looks utterly relevant to the customer who's landed on that page.
Cool. Everyone else, go. Raise your hands.
I'm not really sure if it's a question, but sort of, I hope an iteration of what you said. It's basically the capacity of creating organic business growth locally through content, strategic and smart content creation, so that we will fix it up organically without having to pay for ads and
Yep.
actually competing with the big names who have the money for ads.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I was talking to the Trinity Mirror guys who I mentioned the other day, and they said the wealthy man who lives in Surrey who reads their terrible local, online magazine because it's local, tells him about his, whichever town in Surrey. He's the same guy that reads the Times Online. He's just he's just reading in a different place. Why the hell can you not? Why the hell can Trinity Mirror not monetize his eyeballs in the same way as the Times? Because he's deeply engaged in his local community. That's why he's reading the whatever Gazette.
And I was thinking about the competition. I mean, when you showed the McDonald's shitty search outcomes, I mean, wouldn't really get too crowded. I mean, Google really must work hard on it not to clutter all the...
Well, if it's a branded search, that's one thing. So if you're asking for McDonald's, McDonald's should be the three things that appear. It should just be the three closest to where I am. If it's an unbranded search and I'm just asking for washing machines in Croydon, rather even Bosch, then anyone can play that game. But that is where Google are going to increasingly throw in paid into that local pack as well as organic results. That is very, very new. So there's going to be a paid and organic game inside local as well as a paid and organic game in national, whatever you call it.
I have a last comment on the correlation between store visits and online searches.
Yep.
It's a correlation, but what is the causation? Can it be established if the customer, goes on the same tech site when a particular customer is identified in front of the X store,
Yeah.
and he goes in, buys something, writes a review, all that data is compiled and actually measured up and
Yeah.
calculated on that correlation.
Yes. Well,
So it takes an initial visit and contact
It
with
does.
the local business to...
Yep.
Okay.
But it's easy to say there's the outcome. There would have been something that was on TV or in the local newspaper. There's so many different net effects that media land still doesn't measure very well across devices, inside digital, never mind TV versus print versus search versus whatever. So it's just understanding that when someone is in the mindset, that need it now mindset, that kind of I'm ready to transact. If you aren't harvesting them, if you aren't giving them the prompt, the reason to come to you, versus the pizza shop next door or whatever it is, you're just missing the golden, this low-hanging fruit. They're ready to be engaged. They want to be engaged. They want to be engaged with the right answer.
I wonder if you have any story about sort of beacons that are now sort of being talked about. There's an article I think on your website that got my attention, and if you've heard of any
Well, we're starting to
example
play.
bad or good in the area, perhaps.
I know. Well, actually, it's going to come here. This is a slight tangent, sorry, but in New York, one of the things that they're doing is turning every old-fashioned phone box into a beacon.
Okay.
So New York is going to, and a Wi-Fi beacon. So New York is going to become the most connected city in the world, having been one of the least connected. Tangent. So one of the things that we're playing with in North America is using some of the personalized content capability to be triggered by beacons, because actually if it's just a regular spammy come in message, then there might be some value, but I think there's a question about that. If the message is, I know you're on the high street in Croydon and there's a picture and piano at 32 the high street, come in and redeem this voucher for a 2 for 1 for your first drink because it's 5 o'clock on a Friday, that's an interesting use of beacons. So I think it's then how do you try to use personalization to recognise the localization as well, otherwise there's just going to be spam coming from every shop on the high street.
I agree with everything you said, but now if we think about business point of view, let's say that one of your clients, for example, you mentioned P&G, wants to promote all their content products. So they have different retailers,
Yep.
such as Boots, Superdrug, Sainsbury's. How would you coordinate the cooperation strategy between all these different retailers, considering that they probably have different tracking technologies or different analytic tools, and also like a completely different business model?
That makes sense. So until the last 3 months, I'd have said to P&G, don't bother. This is for retail businesses, e-commerce business. Yes, you sell in the retail store, but you just describe all the complexity to that situation. They've got probably 40 businesses that they distribute Pantene through. So this kind of hyper-local solution, I would have felt 3 months ago is more relevant for retail, e-commerce, that kind of business. Actually, to the discussion just previously, I think there is a really interesting opportunity to use beacons and personalised content to drive, instead of driving someone into the Pitcher and Piano for a 2-for-1 because you know they're near your bar, is to drive someone in for some kind of promotion for Pantene equally easily into a hair salon, or into whatever it might be that's personal to the location. Actually, then it has to be technology that repeats that same personalised message for every location around the country, for example. So that's where technology needs to be used to create 20,000 Pantene ads that are all the same, but they're all different locations. High Street Croydon, High Street Welwyn Garden City, High Street whatever. So I think there might be an interesting thing there, almost mobile redemption vouchers. But it's definitely not the P&G and FMCG brands is not the heartland of this kind of solution.
I was using P&G as an example.
Yeah, so I think if you're an FMCG business, this isn't core yet. I don't think it's interesting to the kind of discussion there. If you are Pizza Hut, if you are McDonald's, if you are any retailer and you aren't doing this, you're leaving business on the table. Directly leaving business on the table, or letting other people earn your customers' footfall.
And how would you prioritize all these different retailers, even knowing that they are completely different retailers but selling the same product?
Well, I'm guessing someone like P&G would have the relative volume that they sell in each store. So that data would probably, you could prioritise if you wanted to go into the 20 biggest Pantene selling retailers in the southeast, for example, I would imagine. Sorry.
Can you tell us some good examples around how you can use this for a digital-only retailer, right? So could you use that to compete against high street retailers, for example? Let's say someone on Oxford Street,
Yep.
searching for a certain thing, you're probably thinking about shopping, therefore I'd rather you come to me rather than...
So I think it's around this. It's around delivering the personalised, because even when you're searching on e-commerce now, so we run a campaign for a client who only has stores in North America, but we deliver these campaigns in Madrid, so that if you search for a little black dress, Madrid, in Spanish, because you're in Madrid, you'll be looking, you're putting location in because you want it to be relevant to your location. We will deliver you an ad that is in Spanish, that is this brand, this retail brand we work with, all looks like their website, but it's all in Spanish, and it's a little black dress that you can click and buy and have delivered to you. And because we're delivering a personalised landing page to you, then we appear in the organic rankings ahead of other local brands, because we're delivering exactly the answer that you look for. So that's how we help clients win, based on the fact that they don't even necessarily have a physical footprint, because Google rewards relevance, etc.
And then when it comes to delivery, you give them a sort of a click and collect option.
So that,
They have to have it delivered, because obviously you've got, say, the connection of eBay, Argos, or parcel lockers.
Yep.
Can you do something similar with that?
Yep. So two different models. One, sometimes we partner with a global fulfillment business. So they're shipping. Most retail businesses now are shipping outside of their own countries. If you've got a big enough brand, so the ability to ship to Madrid for a business in North America isn't that unusual now, because it's done from somewhere in Spain.
By delivering the click and collect experience.
So then you'll have a partner who you can collect from locally.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Any more questions, guys?
About the Sky AdSmart, you said it's cheap. Do you know how cheap? How cheap is it?
I think they're making ads for less than 10 grand. Making ads and giving you an airtime package for less than 10 grand.
Talk a little bit more about the social media identities and how they work and what you recommend there. You talk about Facebook for business.
So I think there are two bits to the social media space. Number one, playing the Facebook business pages game is critical to the is critical to appearing in Google. That's slightly perverse, but Google's looking for your richness of kind of local relevance. I think using the concept of personalised content in social that understands your location is a different game. It's not part of winning with Google, but I think it's part of delivering an amazing customer experience through personalisation and localisation.
But do you think, for instance, that each retail outlet needs to have its own Facebook page?
No,
Right. Okay.
because all IT heads would go insane. Yeah. Have a coronary.
If you're optimising pages for specific areas, any sort of tips you give? So rather than just repeating, Finsbury Park 20 times on the pages, any tips you can give to build that content so you can actually get those names in there?
If it's quick fit, for example, why is the picture of the store manager not on there? Why isn't the parking in the local area on there? What else is there to do in Hertford that you might want to do because you deliver your car, take an hour to have the wheels changed or whatever? What else are you going to do in the area? So make it a rich local experience.
So I'm going to assume that the rest of you have tons of questions but are a little bit shy. So that's fine, because David's going to stick about for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? So you can come and grab him and ask your questions face to face. But in the meantime...
That was a leading question, wasn't it?
Well, I kind of just committed you, didn't I? And I was like, he might have a life outside of this, but that's fine. He's actually going to move in here, stay for weeks, stick around, don't worry, he doesn't have a job or anything, he's not important, he
And I
does
like
nothing.
cats.
Yeah,
This is important.
loves cats, you have to like cats to be here. Great. But if everyone can give a massive round of applause, David. Couple of things to finish up. So, who remembers what I said about reviews? Everyone go on to Meetup. You can do it now before you leave. There's Wi-Fi. There's a tiny, tiny piece of paper with the Wi-Fi code on. You only get it if you're going to go on Meetup and write a positive review. Otherwise, use your data. I don't care what you do. Okay? So if you can... Sorry, my desktop has pitched. Okay. Just to explain, I'm doing a presentation in a couple of weeks and I'm doing a lot about Robocop in it. I'm not just a weird fan. Everything else is unimportant. Enjoy my confidential information. So, moving on from that, if you could write reviews, also volunteer. I've just tweeted it off my personal account. Someone's going to tweet it from the Outreach Digital account, outreachdigital.org/join, and you can sign up if you want to participate. Join our meetup group, and that way you get all the information, or if you want to speak like David did. I know he set quite a high bar, but I've got every faith you'll all be just as good. So go for it, sign up, pitch your talks, that would be great. We're always looking for more speakers, more ideas, more people to get involved. Thanks again to the venue. Make sure you take a brochure. Don't bin it straight outside, at least take it with you home so it looks like you care. I know you might not all sign up, but we don't get free venues unless you guys participate a little bit in it. That is everything. thank you very much for coming. I think someone's probably going to go for drinks. Barry's quite hungover and needs to hair off the dog. So everyone follow that man and he'll take you to a pub afterwards. And that's probably it. So thanks very much, guys.
Thank you.